This is Buddle Road. It runs through South Benwell parallel to Scotswood Road. To the south is the John Buddle Work Village and the Buddle Road housing estate. Before the large-scale clearance programmes of the 1970s transformed this area, Buddle Road was a busy street crammed with homes and shops, with the imposing bulk of South Benwell School at one end and St John's Cemetery at the other. But Benwell is not the only place where the name of Buddle crops up. You could find streets and schools bearing his name in Wallsend, Jarrow and Seaham, a Buddle pit in Cumbria, and Canada's first steam locomotive was called the John Buddle. So who was Buddle, and what are his connections with Benwell? John Buddle was born in 1773 at Keogh near Tanfield in County Durham. He was the fourth of 6 children and the only son. His father worked as a schoolteacher at Chesterley Street before becoming a colliery viewer. The viewer is the person responsible for directing the overall method of working in a coal mine. John learned about coal mining from his father from an early age. By the time he was 19, he was working as underviewer at Benwell Colliery, second in charge to his father, who had recently taken up the job of viewer there. 16 years later, on his father's death, he became manager of Benwell Colliery. The family had moved into a large house in Wallsend near to the river, on the site where the Segedunum Roman Fort Museum now stands. John continued to live there until his own death. He never married but shared the house with his sister Anne. Buddle was not content to follow in his father's footsteps, however, or to limit his activities to Wallsend. In 1801 he became viewer of Benwell Colliery. 2 years later he took his first step into mine ownership, buying a share in Benwell Colliery and becoming a director with a salary of £100 a year. The west end of Newcastle is where coal mining on Tyneside began, because this is where the coal seams come close to the surface on the steep river banks. The area is criss-crossed underground by extensive mine workings. The purchase of shares in Benwell Colliery was a clever investment, reflecting Buddle's ability to apply scientific analysis to practical problems. At that date, the Charlotte pit on Condacombe Road was believed to be almost exhausted. Buddle, from his knowledge of geology, knew that good coal could be found far below the main seam. He sank 2 new shafts, the Edward pit to the north and the Beaumont pit to the south, as well as keeping open the Charlotte pit. This ensured that Benwell Colliery continued to be hugely profitable for many years. Buddle's success at Benwell brought him new opportunities. Within 10 years he was managing large modern collieries all over the northern coalfield and earning an estimated annual salary of more than £1,200, which would be the equivalent of more than £100,000 today. Throughout his life, Buddle continued to extend his personal business interests, taking shares in companies connected with coal mining, such as the Stella Coal Company and Elsick Colliery, and also diversifying into other industries including quarrying, railways, shipping and insurance. But it is for his rolling coal mining that he was best known, earning the nickname of the King of the Coal Trade. Perhaps his most important appointment was in 1819, when he became general manager and colliery agent to the Marquess of Londonderry. This led to Buddle's greatest project, the development of a new town and harbour at Seaham, intended to rival the ports of Tyne and Weir. The building of Seaham Harbour started in 1828 and occupied much of Buddle's attention for the next 15 years. Although he was mainly active in the northern coalfield, Buddle also worked all over Britain and even abroad, advising on mining matters in Portugal, South America, Russia and Nova Scotia. Why was Buddle so much in demand? It is no exaggeration to say that he was the leading mining engineer of his day. Buddle made a major contribution to mine safety. He knew more than most about the dangers of mining, having experienced at first hand a number of major disasters and individual tragedies. Between 1785 and 1838 there were 9 explosions at the Wallsend Colliery alone, which claimed 207 lives. Buddle would often lead the rescue efforts underground, earning the respect of the pitmen. At that time, mining accidents were widely considered to be unavoidable acts of God. Buddle wanted to know if these deaths could have been prevented, and brought scientific rational thinking to bear on the problems. He supported Humphrey Davy's work to develop a miner's safety lamp to protect against one of the major hazards of mining in the new deeper pits, explosions caused by the build-up of gases which could be easily ignited by the candles and open lamps in general use at that time. Buddle provided fire-damp samples for Davy's laboratory experiments and later tested the new lamp at his mine in Hebburn in 1815. In his own words, "I said to those around me, we have at last subdued this monster." This is one of the most significant moments in the industrialisation of the world. Buddle went on to encourage the use of the Davy lamp across the North's coalfields. This bust in St James's Church, Benwell, shows him clad in a pit jacket and with a Davy lamp. Buddle was one of the first people to understand the importance of good ventilation in mines in order to reduce the risk of explosions. He tried various solutions at his collieries, including the use of a steam ventilator and an air pump, and pioneered the use of barometers to assess the risk of gas. Another major cause of coal mining accidents was flooding. Buddle had direct experience of this when the Heaton Colliery, of which he was part owner, flooded in 1815. 75 miners were trapped underground, surviving for a while by eating the flesh of pit ponies. Buddle thought that such accidents, caused by breaking through to the flooded parts of nearby unused mines, were avoidable, and suggested that old mining maps should be kept in a central depository to stop this happening. However, it took another 100 years for Buddle's recommendations to be implemented, following a major disaster at the Montague pit in Scotswood, which claimed 38 lives. Although he was passionately concerned about mine safety, Buddle opposed other measures to improve the lives of miners. He vigorously supported the efforts of northern mine owners to reduce pay and conditions in the industry, for example. He was also a strong advocate of child labour, opposing legislation aimed at preventing boys under 10 years old from working in coal mines. Buddle died in 1843 and is buried at St James in Benwell in a vault reputedly excavated from a coal seam. Buddle had become an important landowner locally through his interest in the colliery, and a decade earlier had donated the land for the new church and churchyard. Over the next half-century after his death, the remainder of Buddle's land was to be developed to create the new community of South Benwell. Buddle's funeral procession was over a mile long and took over 3 hours to travel from his home in Wallsend to the graveyard in Benwell. He was laid to rest in a vault alongside his sister and lifelong companion, Anne.